Coming up on the show today, we've got two shows to talk about, All Rise 2.5 and Picture Book Reading Pro Wrestling. We also have two shows to preview, the upcoming Malaysia show and next week's Inspiration show. The PWI Women's 250 is out, so we'll go ahead and check in on that, see which TJPW women made the list. And Maki Itoh is touring in the United States again. All that and more coming up on the Tokyo Joshi Pod. Stay tuned. Hello to all you big children out there. Konnichiwa! And welcome to the Tokyo Joshi Pod, your weekly dose of everything Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling. I'm your host Andy Zeich, and I want to welcome you to the show today. We've got so much to dive into. We're going to review All Rise 2.5, where we had 4 title matches take place. We're also going to review the Picture Book Reading Pro Wrestling show, which took place at the Book House Café. Quite the sequence of events that took place on that show. On top of those, we have 2 shows to preview as well, the upcoming Malaysia show taking place this weekend, and the latest Inspiration show, which will happen next week. That's going to feature Yu making her TJPW return for the first time in 7 years. We'll also sort through the PWI Women's 250 that came out earlier this week. We'll look at all of the TJPW wrestlers that made the list. We have to check in on Maki Itoh. She's back wrestling in the United States again, had a tour over this past weekend. We also have a homecoming show announcement and some other odds and ends to bump into, but I can't believe that November is basically half over already. The year is going to be over before we know it. The holidays are going to be here before we know it. Thanksgiving is only 2 weeks away. I really hope you all have some nice plans set up for that. There's a bit of an interesting schedule coming up with TJPW. There's going to be a lot of shows that are video on demand. There is the pay-per-view upcoming for the Ocha Pro show at Corcoran Hall. And then, of course, we have the holiday slate of shows, which is a little bit more spaced out than your typical TJPW schedule. So we'll have to see what that means for the podcast schedule. But all that being said, I'm cooking up some fun ideas, got some ideas for different social content, different segments for the podcast, maybe even some guests as well. So keep tuning in. I really appreciate all of the support that everyone is showing. I appreciate you listening to the show, streaming it every week, looking at the social posts that we put up on social media. Keep sharing the show with your friends, with your fellow wrestling fans. It really does mean a lot to engage with our content, give us ratings, and share it a lot. Really, really appreciative of all that. And I hope to be able to bring some fun things in the near future as a way to give back for all the support. So thank you very, very much. Let's jump into our announcements and news from the past week. The January 4th Corcoran show has a few announcements being made. This show is also typically called TJPW 26. The year changes every year, obviously. It's also referred to as Itinyon Corcoran, which basically just means it's the January 4th show. That's what Itinyon is. That's 1-4. So you might see it referred to a few different ways, especially as we come up. I'll try to keep it consistent with the show, but we do have our second match announcement that has been made official as of All Rise 2.5. We have our Princess of Princess title match that has been set. Our champion, Miyu Watanabe, will be taking on first-time challenger Suzume. This will be Miyu's V3 defense. It's Suzume's first time challenging for the Princess of Princess title. We'll talk all about how we got to this announcement once we review All Rise, but this is going to be an absolutely killer main event for that Princess of Princess title. We also have the previously announced one-on-one match between Shoko Nakajima and Hyper Misao. They do this every year. This is the 6th annual iteration of this match. The head-to-head record is 3 wins, 2 losses in favor of Shoko Nakajima. They do also have a tie between the two of them, so it's 3-2-1 in favor of Shoko Nakajima. Overall, this is supposed to have about 9 to 10 matches on the card. They did also, TJPW recently announced that Aja Kong will be a part of this show as well. So nice to see Aja Kong popping back in for this big January 4th Corcoran show. We also have an announcement for an additional 2026 show. Shoko Nakajima is going to be having a Niigata homecoming show that will be called Shoko Quest 4 those guided to the snow country. So the Shoko Quest 4, this is just her fourth homecoming show, but it is the first time in about a year and a half that they've run a show up in Niigata. This will be taking place on February 11th, 2026, from a venue called Duo Serizo in Joetsu, Niigata. There's going to be a fan meeting after this event where there's going to be dinner and party games. This is the event that TJPW runs where a few of the girls dress up in wedding dresses. If you're a newer fan of TJPW, you might be thinking, what the heck is that all about? TJPW does this from time to time. They have this kind of celebratory fan event where a handful of the wrestlers will dress up in very beautiful wedding dresses and wedding gowns, and you get to take a special two-shot, a special photograph with them dressed up in these really beautiful dresses as opposed to their typical wrestling gear. So it might not be for everybody, but it's like a fun little thing that TJPW does specifically around this show in Niigata. Speaking of Shoko Nakajima, Shoko is actually set to miss the upcoming Ocha Pro Corkwin show next month. This is hot off the presses just as of this morning. I'm recording this on Thursday. Nakajima will miss the Ocha Pro Corkwin show next month in early December due to what TJPW is calling various circumstances, but she's going to be replaced by a Mexican luchadora named Ochano Mask, someone who, very unfamiliar to us here at the podcast. TJPW didn't provide a lot of information about this masked competitor, Ochano Mask. If you are a fan of Joshi wrestling in particular, and you follow a few other Joshi companies, this might seem a little bit similar to, say, what is going on in Stardom. Stardom is currently having their Goddess Tag League, their tag team tournament, and Stardom's Hazuki and Koguma FWC ended up having to pull out of that tournament for the same reasons, for various circumstances. They were also replaced by two masked luchadoras from Mexico, so there's quite the influx of talent coming in from Mexico of late, coinciding quite nicely with Hazuki, Koguma, and Shoko Nakajima wrestling in the CMLL Grand Prix. So not sure what's going on here. We'll have to see what this masked luchadora Ochano Mask is all about next month. In perhaps the biggest news of the week, PWI released their Women's 250 rankings on Tuesday. This is the annual top 250 women's wrestlers according to PWI. Some things to keep in mind here is that this list is kayfabe based, so I know I've seen a lot of discourse online about who is ranked where in the list and who should be ranked higher and whatnot, but just important to keep in mind that this list is all kayfabe based. It is set in kayfabe. The good news here, though, is that we have 11 wrestlers from TJPW, which I'm not sure if that's the most of all time, but it is certainly more than last year. We'll cover each of them in reverse order here in just a second, but I do want to point out that we're only going to be covering the women on this list who are full-time TJPW roster members. I will say that there are quite a few foreigners that have made cameos in TJPW that have made the list, the likes of Jada Stone, Alice Crowley, etc. Maki Itoh is also on the list. Won't be covering her since she is no longer a full-time TJPW wrestler, unfortunately, but you'll have to grab the latest edition of PWI to see all of the rankings, but we will cover the TJPW girls here in a second. I do want to briefly just touch on what goes into the rankings and kind of the criteria that the panel looks at, just so we have a little bit of an idea as we pour through these. There are a few categories that they look at. They look at in-ring achievement, so basically your win-loss record, if you've won tournaments, if you've won titles. They also look at influence, so how big of a star you are in your home country and worldwide. They look at your technical ability, so basically, are you using a lot of different moves? Are your matches, I don't want to say are your matches interesting, but are you diversifying your matches? Are you wrestling with different styles and whatnot? They look at competition, so how many matches you've had throughout the year, who you've wrestled throughout the year, if you've wrestled champions, if you've wrestled foreign competitors, kind of what that all looks like. And then they also look at your activity. There is a baseline. You have to have wrestled in 10 singles matches throughout the grading period, or if you don't hit 10 singles matches, you have to have had 6 singles matches in different months throughout the year. So a few folks get eliminated from contention with that in mind. And then the last thing I'll say is that the grading period runs from October 1st, 2024 to September 30th, 2025. So keep that in mind as we look through these 11 names from TJPW. All right, so how we'll do this is I'll give the name of the competitor, I'll give their current ranking in this year's list, I'll mention if they were ranked on last year's list at all, And then also I'll talk a little bit about what PWI is listing for their criteria for placing them on the list. If I have a couple of things to add, I'll do that as well, but that'll basically be how we look into this list here. So starting with the highest placed wrestler, or the lowest placed wrestler, I guess, depending on how we do this, the one that is the closest to 250, we'll look at number 195, Wakana Uehara. Wakana was not included on the list last year, so congrats to Wakana for jumping into the 250. The rationale here from PWI is that towards the end of the grading period, Wakana captured the Princess Tag titles with Uber Eats. She also won the Tokyo Princess Cup qualifier tournament and then proceeded to get to the second round of the Tokyo Princess Cup. Really happy that Wakana made this list. No objections at all here. Rika Tatsumi, next one to make the list at 193. Last year, Rika was 157, so she did drop a little bit. The qualifications for this year, she won a Battle Royal for the number one contendership for the Princess of Princess title. And then they're also listing a few singles victories that she got throughout the year. And then let us not forget, this wasn't included, but let us not forget that she did challenge Mizuki for the Princess of Princess title at Grand Princess earlier this year. So 193 for Rika Tatsumi. We have Yuki Kamifuku at 180, up a little bit from 186 last year. Towards the beginning of the grading period, she was the Queen of Asia champion, the Vietnam Pro Wrestling Women's champion, and then of course towards the end of the grading period, she captured the Princess Tag titles with Wakana. So great placement for Yuki. Nice to see her bump up a few spots. Here's the one that's probably the most interesting to me. Moko Miyamoto made the list at 159. Shoutouts to Mocha. Get well soon. Still no news on Mocha. But Mocha makes the list 159. She was not ranked last year, and PWI says that, quote, this was her biggest year yet. No complaints with that. I absolutely agree with that. I do think it was her biggest year yet. They listed off a few singles victories that she made throughout the grading period, and then of course they mentioned her briefly capturing the International Princess Championship, which I believe she probably only held for 3 to 5 weeks, something in there when all was said and done. It's an interesting placement, especially above certain names like Wakana, for example, but I suppose when you look at the different singles victories and the tallies of who beat who, I didn't really dive into it that much. Maybe she's a little bit higher, but regardless, it's nice to see Mocha Miyamoto make the list. Get well soon, Mocha. At 147, we have Yuki Arai. Yuki Arai dropped a little bit from last year. She was 108 last year. Towards the beginning of the grading period, she was the International Princess Champion, although she did drop that title in January to Suzume. We also have her as the Tokyo Princess Cup, making it to the Tokyo Princess Cup semifinals. And then they do mention her idol status as well, so that's where that influence comes into play. She's quite a well-known name in Japan, so no complaints with where Yuki Arai is slotted here. At 112, we have Arisu Endo. She was not ranked last year, so that's nice to see her jump in and jump in quite high. Of course, towards the end of the grading period, she won the International Princess Championship. She also made it to the Tokyo Princess Cup finals, so nice to see Arisu make this list for the first time this year. I don't believe she's made it once before, but I'll have to double check that. But nice to see Arisu jump into 112. And then cracking the top 100, Miyu Yamashita comes in at 72, dropped a little bit from last year. Last year she was up at 19, so quite a little bit of a fall for Yamashita, but what they're listing here is that she competed really globally throughout the course of the grading period in AEW, GCW, of course, TJPW, Germany, and England as well. What they don't mention is that she's also competed in Ring of Honor throughout the grading period, and then of course she was the Princess Tag Champion towards the beginning of the grading period too. So I'm comfortable with where she's at. She's really a global presence. She's kind of she is the leader of TJPW, but globally probably one of the more recognizable names on the TJPW roster. But I also do agree with the dip in the rating down to 72. She didn't really have any singles titles this year, no major challenges for single titles either. So keep in mind this list is primarily based around singles accomplishments and not tag team accomplishments. At number 61, we have Shoko Nakajima. Huge jump from Shoko from last year. She was 129, so over 60 spots. They mentioned that she won the MLW championship during the grading period. She made it to the semifinals of the Tokyo Princess Cup and then wrestled quite frequently in America. I think this makes a lot of sense for Shoko. She's having a really, really good year both within TJPW and abroad. At 55, we have Suzume. Suzume was not ranked last year, so really, really exciting to see Suzume jump into the list this year and jump in all the way up to 55. Of course, they mention her International Princess Championship run for the quite the majority of the grading period, I would say. And then, of course, that she wrestles quite frequently. She defended that belt, I want to say 6 or 7 times, wrestles in a lot of singles matches, and is on almost every single show, hardly misses any time. So kudos to Suzume for jumping in so high after not being ranked last year. And then there's two left. I'm sure you can guess who they are. Cracking the top 50, number 42, Miyu Watanabe. Last year, Miyu was 18, so she did drop a little bit, but keep in mind, last year during the grading period, she was the Princess of Princess champion. Of course, she is the Princess of Princess champion currently, but only won that relatively recently. So Miyu Watanabe, they list her as the Tokyo Princess Cup winner, and then, of course, the Princess of Princess title holder towards the beginning of the grading period and the end of the grading period. Something else that I threw in is that she did also wrestle for the tag team titles alongside Rika Tatsumi as well at, I think it was Summer Sun Princess. So Miyu Watanabe at 42, and then drumroll, your highest ranked TJPW wrestler at 19 is Mizuki. Mizuki jumped considerably from the year before, where she was ranked 97. Of course, she spent the most of the grading period as the Princess of Princess champion, and they're also calling out that she main evented in America quite a bit throughout the grading period. So I don't really have any major complaints with the girls that made the list. I think all 11 are pretty deserving. I know I did have something to say about Mocha. Not that Mocha is not deserving, just maybe not ranked as high or above some of the other names, but I do think that Mocha deserves to make the list. The one name that I am a little bit surprised that didn't make the list is Hyper Misao. And I know Hyper Misao, predominantly a comedy wrestler, but she did hold the Princess tag titles for quite a while during the grading period with Shoko Nakajima. I know this is primarily based around singles competition, but it's a little bit tricky for me to see Misao left off the list. I did look at her matches. She did not wrestle 10 singles matches. However, I think that she wrestled in 6 singles matches in different months, so maybe there was something funky with the qualifications. There was no mention of her in some of the names that just barely missed the list, so not really sure why Misao didn't make the list, but she's probably my one omission that I think should have been slotted in here somewhere. That was fun. We'll have to do, when the tag team list comes out in the spring, we'll have to see if any tag teams make the list. I don't know if that's a mixed gender list or not. I'm not too familiar. I haven't been looking at PWI since, gosh, when I was a kid. I used to look at that magazine all the time and look through the PWI, 500. It's really cool to see them do a female list these days. But this is a lot of fun. We'll have to look at that tag team list when it comes out, and I'll keep my eye on PWI. They're actually running a special right now. No affiliation with PWI here, but I just thought it was a really cool deal. I signed up for it. You can get a full year of digital PWI for only $15, and it comes with this 250 list, the women's 250 list. So it's a pretty good deal. I took advantage of it. So I'm going to try to mention if TJPW does get coverage in that magazine throughout the coming year. We'll mention it here on the show. We'll talk about who's making the news as it relates to quite a global magazine. So I'm going to try this on for a segue. Speaking of magazines, where do you go to buy magazines? That's right, at a bookstore. And TJPW wrestled this week at the Book House Café in Tokyo. Boom, I think I nailed that. Picture book reading pro wrestling took place on Saturday, November 8th from the Book House Café in Tokyo. We don't have any video yet, only pictures. I am really crossing my fingers that this gets posted at least on YouTube, if not on Wrestle Universe. The attendance for this event, only 64 people, but remember, it is inside of a bookstore, so it's quite a lot of people to cram into a bookstore. They are calling this a sellout, so all tickets that were available were sold. There were 6 TJPW talents that wrestled on this show, and also read books on this show. Rika Tatsumi, Miyu Watanabe, Raku, Pam Harajuku, Suzume, and Arisu Endo were all there. Prior to anything happening, Rika was backstage, quote-unquote backstage, picking out a book to read, and she actually was caught napping with the book on her chest. Somehow a referee was there and walked in on her while she was taking a nap. Kind of weird, but regardless, the referee saw this book on top of Rika Tatsumi while she was napping, counted the 3, so we had a picture book, Let's Play Baseball, the Shohei Ohtani Story 2025 Special Edition, pinned Rika Tatsumi, becoming your 1,780th DDT Ironman heavy metalweight champion. I bet a lot of you thought, where the heck was he going with that? Well, the picture book becomes the champion. Immediately, Rika Tatsumi wakes up. She is ticked off. She speed reads through the Otani book. The referee gives her a little bit of a quiz, which I thought was funny, and then declares Rika the winner, becoming the 1,781st Ironman champion. Since we don't have any video, I'll just briefly glance through what TJPW put out as the write-up for this event. All 6 of these women read various picture books. It seemed like it was mostly families and children in attendance. They did have a 6-woman tag team match. Miyu Watanabe, Raku, and Pam Harajuku took on Rika Tatsumi, Suzume, and Arisu Endo. So nice to see Daisy Monkey teaming again, even if it was on a random bookstore show. Mostly this was like a street wrestling show. There was various mat attacks. Rika apparently ordered a hot chocolate at one point from the cafe. Lots of aggressive reading, what looks like in the pictures. Rika does win the match for her team. She pins Pam with a missile hip, jumping off of the sofa at the bookstore at 13 minutes and 12 seconds. And then afterwards, there was just a nice moment where they thanked everyone for coming, encouraged everyone in the audience to continue reading, the children to continue reading. I'll also mention that some of the proceeds for this event were donated to a children's charity. So really nice event from TJPW, a little bit different than some of their other street wrestling events that they've done in the past. As I mentioned, no video yet. I'm really crossing my fingers. I'll keep you all updated as if and when that does come out. And then allegedly the bigger show of the weekend, I'm going to put that in quotation marks, All Rise 2-5, I'm just kidding by saying that, by the way. All Rise 2-5, Sunday, November 9th at Corcoran Hall in Tokyo. This was live on Wrestle Universe. Actually, one of the shorter Wrestle Universe, or the TJPW Corcoran shows. It was just a hair under 3 hours, so quite a bite-sized Corcoran as it relates to some of the others. There were 730 people there at Corcoran Hall. The last time TJPW was here was just back in October for additional TAC, where they only drew 719. So a little bit of an increase here, which was nice to see. We did end up having one talent unavailable for this show. That was Kira Summer. J-Rod last week just booted her into oblivion, so unfortunately she could not take part. It's half of a joke. Kira was absent. She did come down with a fever, unfortunately, but I believe that all of the girls that are going to Malaysia left like today or yesterday, and I did see online that Kira was headed to Malaysia, so get well soon, Kira, if you haven't already, but I think she's on her way to Malaysia, so fingers crossed, but unfortunately, Kira did miss this show. We had English commentary, which was always a delight to see Mr. Haku and Bali and Aki. We started off with Rise Shirai giving some opening remarks and some house rules. No major news coming off of this show, but we did, of course, get our Up Up Girls performance. They sang Love You More once again. That's the hot ticket of late. Aki did ask why Raku wasn't doing her train of the day, and Mr. Haku didn't really have much to say, just that she doesn't do it anymore. She no longer does it, and all she says is, I'm your Dr. Yellow. I'll have to do a little bit more digging here to see if we can get some sort of answers as to why Raku isn't doing the train of the day. She hasn't done it now for months, and it's just so bizarre. That was always such a fun moment from the Up Up Girls. In our opening contest, we had an 8-woman tag team match, the team of Rika Tatsumi, Chika Nanase, Ren Kanatsu, and X, which was supposed to be Kira Summer, taking on Hyper Misao, Mihiro Kiryu, Mifu Ishida, and Kakeru Sakaguchi. Kakeru's first time back in TJPW since early August. Also on the entrances, noticed that Mifu, I think, had some new gear. She also had some really large pom-poms. I think that Rika Tatsumi had some new gear on this show as well. I might be wrong. If you thought that as well, let me know, but looked like she was wearing some new gear. Misao, of course, starts off with her mic performance. In a funny bit, she thought that Tetsuya Kota forgot to book X, and so she said, we'll have a handicap match instead. It'll be 4 versus 3. And amazingly, Fumarin just rang the bell and was like, yep, guess we're having a handicap match now. Terrible refereeing from Fumarin. But as the match kicks off, we do get X come out, and it is Ryu Mizunami. It is Aniki. There's another funny bit where she does her typical shtick on the way to the ring, and there's this massive group submission that just continues as she's slowly making her way to the ring. Rika Tatsumi is like shouting for her to get in there as fast as possible. Of course, Mihiro and Kekeru did some look-alike trickery. Aniki didn't really care for that. We had our funny apology spot from Mihiro where she apologized for being too confusing, which was a little bit fun. We got a lot of mixed combinations from both teams, given there were 8 women in this match. Of course, we get the machine gun chops that were given to Hyper Misao. Misao countered with her patented cold spray, so all of the hits in this match were coming through. This was fast and furious. There were so many competitors that were coming in and out. Mifu Ishida at one point busted out an X Factor, which I've never seen her do that before. I don't know if that's a part of her typical moveset, but that was really, really cool to see. Even Rika Tatsumi got super confused because she accidentally choked out a Nikki who was on her own team. All of this leads to Rika picking up the victory for her team, pinning Mifu Ishida with a twist of fate at 14 minutes and 46 seconds. A really fun match, lots of action to kick off the show that they crammed into an under 15-minute match. Really nice pivot as well, given Kira fell ill here, bringing in Aniki, that's always a lot of fun. After the match, Aniki was really upset with Rika Tatsumi for choking her, rightfully so. She ended up pushing her to the floor, and Mahiro Kiryu, ever the opportunist, tried to jump in and pin her to take that Iron Man title, but Rika was able to kick out and run away. Backstage, Rika gave some comments. She still has her sights set on that Ocha Pro show. Mahiro actually crashed her comments, offered her a little bit of tea after such a grueling match. It was a really nice gesture from Mahiro, but she ended up trying to roll her up and chased her off. Later on in the show, there was another moment where Rika found Kakeru backstage on her phone. She thought it was Mahiro, and she walked up to her, started chastising her, and then began choking her on the steps of Corcoran Hall, backstage, of course. Before she knows it, Mahiro appears behind her, takes the belt from her shoulder, hits Rika in the face with it, and pins her. Of course, Fumarin right there for some reason. Fumarin always conveniently right next to that title. Mahiro becomes your 1,782nd DDT Ironman Heavy Metalweight Champion. All is right in the world. We can all rest easy tonight. The Ironman Champion is back once again. In our next contest, we had a four-way tag team match. Mizuki and Suzume taking on Miyu Yamashita and Kaya Toribami, taking on Yuki Aino and Haru Kazushiro, taking on Rakupam. Aino and Haru came out to the Super Sentai theme song, which was pretty fun. From what I can understand, that's like a Power Rangers. I don't want to say a knockoff. I think it was Power Rangers was the knockoff for Super Sentai, but similar to Power Rangers. We also get Black Gear Mizuki. Always cool to see that. However, we don't get a pillow for Raku. Very, very, very upsetting. As we started this match out, Mr. Haku informed us that this was a tornado tag team match. So as if this wasn't going to be crazy enough, all competitors were in the ring at the same time. So everyone gets in the ring, starts. Rakupam takes early control. We do get an Oyasumi Express almost right from the get-go. Everybody ends up joining in. We get this really weird like leg kick human centipede style spot, which is like an only in TJPW type moment. So that was a little bit strange. A lot of people looked really good in this match. Aino looked good. She hit this double gut wrench suplex to Mizuki and Suzume. I know they're both fairly light competitors, but still very, very impressive. Kaya Toribami had a really good looking twisting senton from the ropes. Haru Kazushiro looked good too. Truly everybody in this match looked really, really, really good. This was another fast and furious one. We got a lot of sequences of near falls and pin breakups at the end. Big moves from all wrestlers. They came flying in off screen. It was truly, truly a sprint. At the end of this, Suzume pins Haru with the ring a bell at 11 minutes and 9 seconds. Heck of a lot of fun. An absolute sprint of a match. Our third contest, the last non-title match of the evening, a tag team match between Hiroyo Matsumoto and Yuki Arai, taking on Hotshot, Toga, and Yuna Manase. Yuna's first time back from Additional Attack last month, and Hiroyo's first time back from Wrestle Princess 6. To me, this is a match between two of the best entrance themes that we have in Joshi today, Matsumoto and Manase. Both of them come out with such energy, and their songs are so much fun and high tempo, high energy. It just gets me in the mood for a great wrestling match. It's so much fun. This was a very different style tag team match from the previous two. It was very hard hitting. Of course, look at the competitors that are involved here. Hotshot looked really good as a team. There was one awkward move from Toga where she tried to lift up Hiroyo and almost fell over, but she just went back to it and tried it again. Arai and Matsumoto feel a little bit more like just two people thrown together rather than a tag team, but maybe we'll get a little bit more synchronicity between the two of them as they continue tagging. This match ended with Matsumoto pinning Toga with the rock drop at 12 minutes and 21 seconds. And speaking of Matsumoto and Arai, in their backstage comments, they did tease challenging for the Princess Tag titles at some point in the future, so maybe we'll see that perhaps at the January 4th show or one of the other bigger shows that are upcoming. It's nice to see outside veterans coming into TJPW, the Yuna Manases of the world, the Hiroya Matsumotos of the world, coming in and teaming with some of the younger competitors like Toga, maybe some of the competitors that are a little bit more green and can use some seasoning like Yuki Arai. That might be a hot take. I don't mean that in a mean way at all. Later this same day, in quite an impressive feat, Yuna went to wrestle for the Spirit of Ganbare Pro title at a Ganbare Pro match on the same exact day. So kudos to Yuna. I don't think she won, but have to check that match out. In our first of 4 title matches, the MLW Featherweight title was on the line. Champion Shoko Nakajima taking on the challenger Viva Van. This is Shoko's V5 defense, the second time she's defended this title in Japan. Viva's first time in TJPW since May of this year. This match was really a case of Shoko trying to counter Viva's power and flexibility with a lot of high-speed based attacks. Viva is a little bit rough around the edges at times, but she kind of gets away with it. It's hidden under this very deliberate, powerful offensive style. Viva worked the leg quite a bit in this match. There was a really fun spot where Shoko tried to go for a Momo latch, and Viva just sits down on top of her and uses that power, uses that flexibility. Ultimately, though, Shoko does retain her title with a diving senton at 12 minutes and 58 seconds. They shake hands afterwards. I thought this was a really smart booking from either TJPW or MLW, or maybe both of them, but I think it's really smart to put a foreigner here challenging for a foreign title while in Japan, because going into this, a lot of people might not have thought that Viva Van had a chance to win this, but given that she is based in America, interesting to think about. Maybe she's going to take this American title back to America with her. Maybe I'm grasping at straws, but I thought this was smart booking to put Viva Van in this situation. Moving into our TJPW titles, the International Princess title was on the line. The champion, Arisu Endo, taking on the challenger, Uda Takami. This is Arisu's second defense of the title. These two have never faced head-to-head before, so first-time singles match. There was a preview match. Arisu's team won that match. Neither of these two women factored into the decision, though, so it's a soft 1-0 for Arisu. Uda, of course, qualified for this challenge after winning the Next Gen tournament. She was wearing that very heavy-looking medal around her neck. She has to kind of hold it. I don't know if that's because it's too heavy for her. Maybe I'm just making that up, but she does hold on to it quite a bit as she's walking around with it, which is funny. We started off with handshakes. We get a really loud Arisu chant. Mr. Haku said that it was 50-50 for both of them. Maybe I misheard. It did sound like it was a lot of Arisu, though. This one started off with a lot of high-speed action. Arisu was in control early on. Uda shifted onto the advantage for a little bit. Uda was looking really, really good in this match. She had great ring awareness. She was using the space really well, able to jump through the ropes at times, jump off the corners at times. Uda is like a human energy drink. She just kept coming and coming and coming. It was like the Energizer Bunny in there wrestling Arisu. This really started to hit a second gear right when Arisu made Uda submit to the camel clutch at 11 minutes and 15 seconds. After the match, they shake hands. Easily, I could have used 5 more minutes of this. I would have had them shave a little bit off of the MLW title match, the Princess Tag Team title match, and give it into this match. This was the second shortest match of the night, just over 11 minutes. I would have loved to see more. It felt like, I don't want to say it was just getting going. It was definitely already going, but I think they could have hit a second or third gear in this. I think it could have really stolen the show if it really didn't already. Uda has certainly arrived. She is now on the map. Uda has really cemented herself as someone to keep eyes on, to continue growing from this next generation. As she put it a few weeks ago, Uda is like the now generation, right? But overall, this was a really, really fun match. This might be my match of the night. We'll have to wait and see, but strong contender for my match of the night. Backstage, Arisu welcomed any challenger for her belt. Uda called this the end of the prologue. So that basically feeds into Uda has now arrived. She says, I don't know what's next in terms of the next couple of chapters, but it feels like my prologue is now done. I'm here and I'm ready to keep growing. So really excited to see what's next for Uda. In our semifinal, the Princess Tag titles were on the line. Uber Eats defending in their second defense against Bumping Gritters. The preview match for this was 1-1. Kamiyu does have a direct pinfall over Shino Suzuki, which played into the story very well. Himawari also picked up a preview match victory, although it was against Kira Summer. It wasn't against any of the Uber Eats team. There was a huge amount of streamers for all 4 of these women. Uber Eats came out to their new entrance music. That's a lot of fun. I did see that that was posted on Blue Sky by Wakana. So if you're interested, I just Googled it. I was able to find it pretty quickly. It's a fun song. I do really like the opening bit a little bit more, kind of that like reggaeton style reggae beat. And then it shifts more into that like house style. Might be miscategorizing it, but I do really like the beginning of that. We do get handshakes from everybody to start off, but Kamiyu dismisses Himawari. She shakes her hand and immediately hits her with a bye-bye. Shino and Kamiyu start us out. Kamiyu just would not take Shino seriously basically throughout the entire match. Wakana and Himawari come in. Both of them get some really big chants. Himawari's hair comes into play early here. Quick tangent. I did read an interview with the Bumping Gritters. I think it was in Pro Wrestling Today, a Japanese publication, where Himawari says that she uses 3 times the shampoo of a normal person. I do believe that because her hair is so long, but I thought that was really interesting. And then, even more interesting, she said she has a dream of wrestling in a mask versus hair match in Mexico. That would be awesome. That would be so cool. I love that that is her dream. I love that she knows who she is as a character. Her hair is such a precious piece of her and her persona. And to then understand to put that on the line and like the ultimate wrestling, oh my God, that would be so cool. Well ahead of our time, but maybe in 5 to 10 years' time we get that. I can't imagine Himawari with short hair though. Anyway, I digress. We do get Shino's tour guide spot in this match. The tour of the day was Here is Wakana, the loser of the title match, which was pretty funny. Wakana, of course, wasn't into that at all. Kamiyu came back in. She was really toying with Shino throughout so much of this match. Kamiyu actually had a really cool spot with Himawari where she tied Himawari's hair into the ropes and kind of split her hair using her legs. It was really interesting to see, really unique and creative spot from Himawari. Some pretty nice double team maneuvers from Uber Eats. They're certainly gelling a little bit more as a team and working together a little bit more as a team. There were also a few team moves from Bumping Gritters as well, albeit a little bit less than Uber Eats. Towards the end of the match, it seems like Kamiyu just had enough of this and she jumped into the ring and said, "We're done here." She hits a double famouser on Bumping Gritters, which was pretty cool. Probably the only person that can do that given how tall she is, how long her legs are, but really cool spot there. That led to Wakana pinning Shino with the Sushi Tornado at 16 minutes and 38 seconds. Some interesting things happened after this as well. Kamiyu walked over and gave both members of Bumping Gritters a big hug. It was like a big sister moment that she really was proud of them for coming to this match and putting up such a fight in this match. Wakana tried to do the same thing, and the two of Bumping Gritters shoved Wakana away, which was really, really cool. Throughout all of this, Shino is just like sobbing uncontrollably, like convulsing and crying like she couldn't get a hold of herself. But really interesting that Kamiyu got the hug, Wakana did not. In the backstage comments, Himawari did comment about this. She said that Bumping Gritters will continue to tag together. She was trying to console Shino because Shino is just like sobbing uncontrollably and convulsing on the bench backstage. And she was like, "It's okay. Like, this isn't the end of the tag team. We can continue to tag together. It's only our first chance." So some nice mature words from Himawari there. But Himawari did say that they refused Wakana's hug because they don't want Wakana thinking that they are 1 or 2 steps behind her as gen mates. That was a comment that Wakana made in the press conference for this. She said that while she is class of 2023 alongside Shino and Himawari, she did feel as if she was progressing beyond them given she has the championship belt. She likely has a case for that argument, but I do like the fire from Himawari and Shino here to say, don't forget about us, don't underestimate us. I thought that the International Princess title match was probably a better match than this one, but this had so much more emotion, so much more story that was tied into it. It was the longest match of the show, over 16 minutes. I thought we'd get maybe another gear from Shino. Shino was showing so much emotion in the preview matches, in the lead up to this, in her level up match against Miyu Yamashita, even Himawari too. I don't think we really got quite that level of emotion. They certainly were invested in this, but I don't know. I just thought we'd maybe get like another level, if you will, another level up from Shino here, where she would just show that fire. And I don't think we quite got it. Maybe that was the point, though. Maybe it was to illustrate that they still have a high wall to climb in their development as wrestlers. So maybe I'm just falling trapped to the story here, but that was my one thought. I do think that Shino represents the true underdog in professional wrestling, not in size. There are competitors that are smaller than her, like an Uda Takami, who can shift into that role given how small she is, how petite she is. But Shino Suzuki is basically your everyman, even more of an everyman than Mahiro Kiryu. She's always overlooked, she's always cast down, she's always talked down to by her opponents, especially, of course, when you're dealing with someone like Kamifuku. She's someone that just wants it so bad, and you can see that as she just is crying and crying and crying afterwards. Shino is the true wrestling underdog, and I will stand by that take. And in our main event, the Princess of Princess title was on the line. Miyu Watanabe in her second defense of the title, taking on the Ultimate Athlete, J-Rod. No head-to-head matches before this, no preview matches before this. This is truly, truly the first time these two women have wrestled each other, which is an interesting strategy. Of course, there was a lot of the YouTube vignettes that we got, so there was a build-up to this match, but interesting to not that these two women kind of feel each other out in a preview tag, especially considering that J-Rod was coming in from America. The match starts off with J-Rod shoving Miyu's hand away. She does not give her the handshake. The two of them show off their muscles. It is truly astounding how muscular Miyu Watanabe is. Go look up pictures of this match. Go watch this match. Miyu is so dang strong for her size. It is unbelievable. J-Rod was in control to begin this. She was really abusing Miyu, basically pillar to post. At one point, she javelins her into the corner with a snake eyes, hits this really beautiful delayed suplex, fall away slam. She pinned her while doing push-ups at one point, which was pretty cool. Miyu decides, like, I can't match this person power for power, so she switches a little bit more into speed-based attacks. She actually hits a drop kick, too. I don't remember the last time I've seen Watanabe hit a drop kick, but that was kind of neat to see. J-Rod climbs up to the top rope, misses a frog splash. Miyu does try to go for the giant swing, but J-Rod denies her almost right away that first attempt. Miyu continues on the attack. She hits a power slam on J-Rod and then does hit her giant swing. It looked really great. They ended up trading power for power in different moves, power bombs, forearms, chops, you name it. At one point, Miyu actually goes for a dive on the outside. Also the first time I've ever seen Miyu do that. It did not look too smooth, unfortunately. But that being said, I think what happened was, as she was going for this dive, she hesitated for some reason, and I don't think it was because she was hesitating on her ability. I think maybe she saw J-Rod either out of position or maybe not looking just yet, like the timing was maybe off by a second or two. I would love to see Miyu do more of this type of offense. I think something that could kind of differentiate her first title run and her first title defense matches into this second title run and her new title defense matches is adding in some moves. We saw her add in a submission at one point, so it'd be really cool to see her continue to try for moves like these dives and just grow as a competitor, make them a little bit more fluid, grow as a champion. Towards the end of the match, J-Rod does hit Miyu with the ultimate spear. She tried to hit a second ultimate spear, but Miyu is able to counter that with a power slam, that Randy Orton style quick turn power slam. She ends up hitting her spinning teardrop and picks up the win at 12 minutes and 55 seconds. I do have to admit, this was much better than my admittedly low expectations for this match. I do think it was still a bit predictable, the outcome, but this match was not awkward in the slightest. That was one of my worries going into this. These women having not had a chance to feel each other out, wrestle each other before, I thought it might be a little awkward with the height differential. It was not awkward at all. It was a very fluid match, except for that one kind of diving miscue, and you can kind of forgive them for that. But this was pretty good. J-Rod only has like 100 matches to date. I think it was like 130 matches or something like that. That's really impressive for someone to come into a foreign country, a foreign promotion, wrestle someone that you've literally never touched before, and put on a pretty decent showing in the main event of Korakuen Hall's show. So props to J-Rod for this match. Afterwards, they do stare at each other a little bit, but there was really no like end cap to the two of them. Almost immediately, Suzume walks out and challenges for the Princess of Princess title at the January 4th Korakuen Hall show. Both of these ladies say that this is a dream match for the two of them. They started to cry, tears of happiness. Miyu just kind of came out. She said it just kind of bubbled over, but a sweet moment. Really nice to see. That's going to be a fun main event for the Itanyon Korakuen show. Miyu, of course, closes the show. We get some backstage comments from all three parties. J-Rod does praise Miyu in her comments. She did say that she loved her time in Japan. She wants to come back again. Miyu very excited to defend her title against Suzume. She did mention that this was the person that she had in mind. She made that comment during the press conference that she had someone in mind who had not challenged for this belt before. For some reason, I thought she maybe was talking about Yuka Sakazaki not having ever challenged Miyu for the belt before, maybe looking at Grand Princess at the Ryogoku Kokugikan. Maybe that's still on the table, but apparently this is what she was talking about. Suzume, first time ever challenger for this belt at all. She shared that she had Suzume in mind because they have a shared age, a shared mindset, and a shared love for TJPW. Suzume gave some comments as well. She said that she was recently inspired quite a lot by Mizuki. Mizuki was encouraging her to make this challenge. Of course, she saw Arisu win the IP title, and then just her own frustrations about losing the IP title and not really having a next goal yet. So that's going to be a wonderful match. We'll certainly dive more into that as we get into December and January. This show overall, I thought was just maybe a notch or so below Additional Attack, last month's Corcoran show. It's not that anything on the show was bad per se, but Additional Attack had so much good on it. The Level Up series of matches, we had previews for the Next Gen tournament. I think it had a little bit of a stronger main event with Yuki Aino taking on Miyu Watanabe, some stronger challengers, less predictable challengers. So just a notch or so below, but not to say it was a bad match. Maybe like a 6 out of 10, I would say, if I'm grading it there. We have 2 shows to look forward to coming up, too. This weekend, we have Good Life presents Love and Peace, and then later on next week, we'll have TJPW Inspiration. The Love and Peace show will be taking place on Saturday, November 15th. This is the Malaysia show, so it's from a venue called Geospace in Petaling Jaya, Selangor, Malaysia. I'm probably mispronouncing that, I apologize. In some exciting news, as of today, TJPW announced that this will be video on demand on Wrestle Universe. I checked, there's no date just yet for it, but that's cool. It'll be really nice to see this show. The TJPW representation will be all 4 members of the Up Up Girls, Miyu, Raku, Shino, and Uda. It's really difficult to say all 4 names, say that like 5 times fast in a row. Also, Yuki Arai, Yuki Kamifuku, Kira Summer, and Mifu Ashida as well. There's going to be some idol performances too, not only from the Up Up Girls, but also from KLP48, which is the Malaysia-based idol band. We'll talk about, there's only 4 total matches here, so let's talk about the 2 matches that do not contain TJPW people first. We'll have multi-man tag matches. The first one, Sanshiro Tagagi is making the trip. He'll be teaming with Shinichiro Kawamatsu and Iman Osman. They're going to take on Chris Brooks, Shota, and Jack Alexander. And then we have a Malaysia Pro Wrestling sponsored match, the team of Wonder Boy and Miles Carew, who are known as the Juicy Boys, taking on Phoenix Rose and Love Warrior Shawar, who are known as Love and Freedom. And then with the TJPW girls, we'll have a 6-woman tag, Miyu Watanabe, Yuki Arai, and Raku, taking on Yuki Kamifuku, Mifu Ashida, and a Malaysian wrestler by the name of Poppy Shea. And then we'll also have a tag team match, Shino Suzuki and Uda Takami teaming together, and they're going to take on Kira Summer and Marika Kobashi. This is Marika's first time back with TJPW since April of 2022. I know technically she's going to be wrestling on like a joint promoted show, but I'm going to count it first time back in TJPW in a number of years. If you are unfamiliar with Marika Kobashi, she's currently freelancing. She's a former Princess Tag Team Champion, and of course, a former DDT Ironman Heavy Metalweight Champion as well. There was an interview that came out with Sanshiro Takagi where he spoke about how Marika Kobashi got involved in this show. Apparently, she reached out to him asking to participate because she is currently living in Malaysia for like a couple of months at a time, and this show conveniently happened to fall during her time while she's living in Malaysia. So she reached out and said, hey, would love to be a part of it, and they were able to make it happen pretty quickly. So it'll be really nice to see Marika once again wrestling with some TJPW wrestlers. And then later on next week, on Wednesday, November 19th, we will have our latest Inspiration show. This one wasn't numbered from what I can tell, but it will technically be Inspiration number 10. This will be taking place at the Shinkiba First Ring, and this one's going to be live on Wrestle Universe, although it will be happening overnight for us here in the States. So it might be one that you're either going to have to stay up late for, wake up early for, or just catch it the next day. Only 10 total TJPW girls will be on this show. For those unfamiliar with the concept, Inspiration is a little bit more of like a scaled back show. There's a limited number of wrestlers that are on it, a limited number of matches. TJPW typically sells tickets for cheaper because of that. Think of it like a snack-sized way that TJPW shows itself to people of Japan, tries to expose more people to their product, get more workers that they have to have some reps. Some of the younger talent can get more reps. They bring in talent that don't typically work on regular TJPW shows. They do matches that don't typically fit a normal tour. So it's like a little bit of a out of canon, if you will, TJPW show. We have 4 matches on this show, a singles match between Kaya Toribami and Toga. That should be interesting to see. Both of those competitors get a singles match under their belt. We have a singles match with Rika Tatsumi taking on Gabaji-chan. If you are unfamiliar with Gabaji-chan, he is basically a grandpa that wrestles. It's some man in a mask with a hat and a cloak and a cane. The matches are always a lot of fun. If you don't know Gabaji-chan, I don't want to say too much. I just highly encourage you to watch this match. This is going to be ridiculous in the best way possible. There will be a tag team match. Mizuki and Yuki Aino will take on Raku and Himawari. That'll be a lot of fun. And then in what I imagine will be our main event, we'll have another tag team match. Shoko Nakajima and Miyu Yamashita will take on Yuki Kamifuku and Yu. Yu will be coming back to TJPW for the first time since December of 2018. That's like 7 or 8 years ago. For those unfamiliar, Yu currently wrestling as a freelance. Actually, no, I believe she just signed to Sendai Girls not too long ago, but was wrestling as a freelancer for quite a long time. You can see her often in Sendai Girls. You can see her, I believe she's in Stardom from time to time, Marvelous from time to time, Sukaban as well. She bounces around quite a bit. As it relates to TJPW, Yu is a former Princess of Princess champion. Of course, she's a former DDT Ironman champion. She is a 2-time Tokyo Princess Cup winner, one of the only few people to have won that tournament more than once. There was a really great kind of intro for her. She basically had, if you're familiar with NXT, she had the Asuka NXT run in TJPW. She was undefeated for a very long time, won the main championship. She was just this dominant force. Yu, bittersweet, will be retiring on December 28th, so this will be the last time that Yu competes for TJPW. Let's quickly bounce around some graduates, some excursions. We'll start with Maki Itoh. I know I teased this at the top of the episode. Maki, back to wrestling again. She did a brief tour. Actually, it's not brief. It's going to be continuing actually through the rest of the month. But Maki Itoh wrestled all 3 days this past weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for GCW. On Friday the 7th, she wrestled Carrie Morton at You Wouldn't Understand. On Saturday the 8th, she wrestled KJ Orso at Massacre in Maine. And then on Sunday the 9th, she wrestled Selena Hecate at Green Mountains and Me. Maki was in her MDK persona for all of these. She came out to For Whom the Bell Tolls. At the Kerry Morton match, she had the pizza cutter in hand. Interesting side note about Kerry Morton, he actually has some history with the Up Up Girls because in Las Vegas, at Joey Janela's Cluster F, the big battle royal that they do, he came out while the Up Up Girls were in the battle royal, and he said he hates idols or something. It was a little bit of a funny bit. Maki was able to beat Kerry Morton in about 10 minutes. She did lose to KJ Orso in about 10 minutes as well. And then she beat Selena, I think it's Hecate, I want to say. Veda Scott was pronouncing it, and I should have wrote down the phonetic pronunciation. So, sorry, Selena. But Maki Itoh did beat Selena with a Texas Cloverleaf in about 6 minutes. That was really neat to see. I don't think I've seen Maki do a Texas Cloverleaf before, so some cool stuff to see. Maki is going to continue in America basically through the remainder of the month. She's going to be wrestling this coming Saturday, the 15th, against Shayna Baszler at House of Glory Super Clash. That seems like it's going to be a lot of fun. Would love to see that when that comes out. And then in a couple of weeks' time, I think it's next weekend, the 22nd and the 23rd, she's back with GCW wrestling against, as of present, Zeta Steel and Queen Aminata. So it's quite the competition level that's on the horizon for Maki Itoh. Another fun little note, Maki Itoh actually has a YouTube channel. Was completely unaware of that, but she did post her first YouTube video in quite a long time where she is just having this conundrum about this shopping bag and how she lost this shopping bag that was a part of her Airbnb. I'm probably not doing it any justice. It's a lot of fun. If you want to follow Maki Itoh on YouTube, you can just search her name. She'll pop right up. But she has started to post YouTube content, it seems. Bouncing around a few other graduates, Natsumi Maki, who you might know as Natsupoi, is wrestling in the Goddess of Stardom Tag Team League with her partner Sayori Ano. That's going on throughout the remainder of this month, so if you'd like to check in on Natsupoi, you can do that with Stardom. Yu, in addition to her upcoming TJPW match, had a match on November 7th, Friday, with Eve out of the UK. At this event called Eve number 141 Elite Encounters. She actually challenged for the Eve International title. I believe she lost the three-way match for that title. From what I understand, Eve posts a lot of their content on YouTube. I think some of it is behind a membership, but if you're really interested in watching Yu wrestle, that might be on YouTube. And then the last one, I want to give a shout out to Mina Shirakawa. Mina wrestled on AEW Dynamite this week, the November 12th edition, in the Blood and Guts match. This match was absolutely wild. If you are a fan of hardcore wrestling, if you are a fan of like the late 90s, early 2000s WWE style of wrestling, I suppose I should just say if you're a fan of AEW and the AEW style of wrestling, that's probably a more accurate comparison here. Don't want to diminish AEW. This match was unreal. There was like 12 women or something in this match from all different walks of life. Megan Bayne, Tekla was there, Sky Blue, Mercedes Moné, Toni Storm. The list just goes on and on and on. This match was wild. It lived up to the billing. There was a lot of blood and guts. There was a lot of crazy moments, but I have to give props to all of these women, including Mina Shirakawa. Go out of your way to watch this if you are into that style of wrestling. This was literally and figuratively a banger. And then quickly just to touch upon a few excursions that we have. This Friday, so the day that this episode comes out, the 14th, IWA Thailand and Setup Thailand are hosting their show in Japan called A New Dawn. This will be taking place at Tokyo Square in Itabashi. Pam Harajuku will be on this show. She's wrestling in a three-way match against Ram Kaichou and Matcha for the Setup All Asia Women's title. And then Miyu Yamashita and Kaya Toribami are wrestling in a three-way match for the IWA Japan Setup World Tag titles. So 3 wrestlers from TJPW. There's going to be some DDT folks there. ELP from New Japan will be there. This is all in, not necessarily, this isn't happening just for this, but this is in advance of the December 13th TJPW Live in Bangkok show. I didn't put 2 and 2 together, but now that I saw some of the promotional graphics and TJPW talking about Palm quite a bit in the All Asia Women's title match, I kind of wonder if she'll beat Matcha and then take that title to the TJPW event. So we'll have to see. I'm not sure if this is going to be released anywhere. I didn't see any of that in the promotional materials, but we'll keep our eyes on that one. And then I also want to mention that for the latter half of this month, Miyu Yamashita is going to be touring Europe, basically for the back half of November. So I think she's around through next week, and then next weekend she starts to wrestle really all throughout Europe. So we'll keep tabs on what those matches are, where she's going to be, if they're going to be accessible at all. But we won't be seeing Miyu Yamashita as much in TJPW, at least for the next 2 to 3 weeks. And that'll just about bring us to the end of this episode. After watching that AEW Blood and Guts match, I definitely need a little bit more than some cold spray and some ice packs. On next week's show, we'll review Inspiration and the Malaysia event. We'll preview Uda Takami's Homecoming show that's coming up in just a couple of weeks. We also have 2 Itabashi shows that'll be happening. That's the one where the roster is splitting into 2 teams, Team TJ and Team PW. I hope you've enjoyed the show this week. If you did, you can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss any future episodes. You can follow us at Tokyo Joshi Pod on Instagram, TikTok, and X. If you want to send us an email, tokyojoshipod@gmail.com. Feel free to shoot us an email. I'd love to hear any feedback about the show, anything that you guys would love to see covered a little bit more. We'd love to hear from you guys. But above all else, remember to keep your hearts burning, stay magical, my friends, and we'll see you next week on the Tokyo Joshi Pod.